Now, 2014 is coming to a close, so let's take a step back and look at the trends that have emerged or become stronger this year. People have been talking about the Internet of Things disruption, digital addiction. What does it all mean? And how has the world changed heading into 2015? Well, to discuss, we're joined by trend analyst Dion Chang. Great to have you with us in studio,
Francis.
Dion. First, let's talk about the power cuts, because that must spark new trends in South Africa. Excuse the pun. I was thinking like load shedding parties with candles. I don't know. Have you seen anything?
Well, I mean, I've been tracking digital addiction, and I think this is an enforced digital detox that we're going to have for the next couple of months. So possibly it's not a bad thing, but obviously in terms of economies of the country and everything, it is disastrous. So one of the trends that we've been tracking and going forward into 2015, in fact, it's the theme for my companies next year, is actually disorder. And you're starting to see it in many, many ways. It manifests in the state of economy, the social dynamics, politics. We've seen it in Parliament. There's a switch from an old world order into a new world order, and we're in that very, very difficult phase. Change makes people feel very, very uncomfortable, and we're seeing this discomfort on a global scale.
Is the wealth gap, the inequality, the poverty all part of that, and are people getting stronger? Could we see a rebellion, a stronger pushback, more protests?
I really do think so. I mean, the global inequality is something I've been tracking since 2012, and in Switzerland they voted down a concept called the 12 to 1 concept, where they didn't want a CEO to earn 12 times more than the lowest paid worker. Obviously that didn't really wash. But if you look internationally, so from America to even in some of the mining companies in South Africa, our top CEOs earn about 300 times more than the lowest paid worker. And that state of inequality is getting wider and wider and wider as we move into the 21st century. So it's part of that disorder, and it's part of the kind of utter frustration that people have. So you're seeing it spark out in Hong Kong with the umbrella revolution. You're seeing it in our own parliament. You're seeing it all over the place. But what's driving it is, of course, technological change. And it's going to get even more complex because with robotics and mechanization, you're going to get a loss of jobs going through in the next couple of years. So that's going to complicate things even more, and I think the conflict is going to get even worse.
Is mechanization a strong trend? Because I guess we have to see it from all sides, and these bosses do also want to make their companies profitable, get the best, most productive utensils, basically.
There's two ways of looking at it. It's either efficiency. So if you look, and anyone can look at it online, these vast warehouses that Amazon uses are already run by robots. So it does that. Back home in our mines, it is technically not going to be a good idea to have a human being hundreds of kilometers down underground at the stope where a machine or a robot is able to do that. So we're in this difficult fork in the road, which for a trend spotter like me is really exciting. But I think for businesses and specifically a baby boomer generation, the shift to a new world order is a very frightening thing.
Well, people have been talking about disruption for a long time, and that's when things change radically.
Yes.
Is it happening, or has it just become a buzzword for sort of incremental changes?
No, it really is happening. If I track specifically altered business templates, and you've seen the technological disruption come from print media into advertising and marketing. It's now the war zone, I call it, is in the retail, online, offline area. As we're going to go into 2015, it's going to, with wearable tech, all of those kind of things, it's going to start hitting your healthcare industries, and as a result, your insurance, financial services, and so the ripple effect goes on.
Well, what was very interesting to me is that you spoke about technology recently changing how people are defining wealth. I think
Yes.
you used techno-hippies as the term. Just explain that for me.
The techno-hippies are more of a Generation Y, your millennial generation, who really see themselves as the new rich. And the new rich is not in material goods, but in time and location. So you are able to work anywhere thanks to your devices. And there's that freedom of movement and not locked down to one place and one job. But as 2 years ago, there was a really interesting study done by American Express called the Life Twist Study, and it already started showing signs there that people valued experiences more than physical wealth. and in fact cooking better topped earning more money in that survey. So I think we're going to start feeling as the hourglass economy becomes a reality globally, where the middle class is really being squeezed. You're going to see people wanting to do things differently with less. And then, as you said, with our load shedding, we're going to have to find different experiences to make us happy and find that enrichment there.
It makes sense, the middle class being squeezed and people working 10 hours a day. So the new freedom is actually being saying when you're going to work, saying that you can take time off. Let's talk about technology being stressful.
Yes.
It's the end of the year. You've looked at digital burnout, digital addiction. Also, years ago, people were talking about these zones where you could go away and just get away from it all. That doesn't seem to have come to the fore, could it?
It's not, but it's being formalized. So people look at me very strangely when I talk about digital addiction, because they say, well, how's it possible? But they're actually showing, it's very new research, but you are starting to see that the pleasure pathway in your brain is the same as when you are either gambling, gaming, or falling in love. So the digital addiction is starting. So in countries like Singapore, they are actually trying to formalize it as a disorder, and they've got 2 internet addiction centers already running. In mainland China, there are 300 internet addictions already up and running to try and wean people off.
And what's the cure? Do you sit there with nothing?
You sit there and you are literally and that's why it's no surprise that the buzzword also in healthcare has been the mindful movement in 2014. But people haven't asked why in 2014 is the mindful movement there. And Ofcom, the UK regulator, published a report a couple of weeks ago where they said we are now spending more time on our devices than we do sleeping. So you are actually living in a parallel universe, in a virtual world, and when you come out of it, you discover that you've got an entire life to lead as well. So we are doubling our lifetimes. Sure. So that's why we feel so burnt out at this time of the year.
Well, this has been fascinating. Thank you so much for your time. That was trend analyst Dion Chang. Let's take a break.